So this is the Tudor Black Bay GMT, a 41mm traveller GMT with classic vintage vibes. And the question's simple, after 5 years, is this still the best GMT for $3.5 grand? And is it still worthy of your consideration? Let's talk about it. So the Black Bay GMT is a vintage multi-time zone watch based on the popular Tudor Black Bay series. Its design harks back to early Tudor and Rolex dive models from the early 1950s, along with early references of the Rolex GMT Master, like the 6542. So clean looks, no crown guards and chamfered lug profiles. It's a handsome watch, just like the rest of the Black Bay range, especially if you're a lover of vintage designs. Classic looks combined with modern tech is what this watch is all about. It's almost perfect, but not quite. The Black Bay GMT comes in with a bezel and case diameter of 41mm, a lug-to-lug of 49.8mm and a lug width of 22mm. The thickness measures 14.6mm, broken down by a 2.5mm case back, 7.6mm flat case side, 2.5mm bezel and 2mm of crystal. Its total weight, including the steel bracelet, comes in at 174 grams. In short, this isn't a petite watch. It's somewhat a victim of being designed in the early 2010s, a time when bigger was better, although it does result in a slight juxtaposition compared to its vintage styling. We'll talk about wearability a little later, but don't be fooled by the 41mm diameter being the same as a modern Submariner, or the fact a Rolex GMT Master 2 is only 1mm smaller. The wearability of these watches are worlds apart, especially on a smaller wrist. When it comes to case design, we're transported right back to mid-20th century Rolex. That iconic side profile, delightful chamfered lugs, and a clean no crown guard aesthetic. It's a delightfully vintage throwback and I'm totally here for it. We have high polished case sides and bevels mixed with brushed lug tops, all formed from 316L stainless steel. As a fan of vintage watches, especially those early Rolex subs and GMTs, I really appreciate what Tudor are doing with this and the whole Black Bay range. Rolex simply don't make watches like this anymore, and to me its design is far enough away from modern Rolexes that this totally stands on its own. If you want that vintage Rolex look in a watch you can wear every day and won't fall to pieces, you buy a Tudor. It's that simple. In the same fashion as the Black Bay dive range, we get the same steel bezel with aluminium insert. The main difference is that this is a bi-directional GMT bezel for reading different time zones, and not a count-up timer like on a dive watch. We get the same coin-edged polished knurling and accurate, easy-to-grip operation. Colour-wise, we get the iconic blue and red Pan Am colour scheme with silver markings. The bezel is not loomed. It's well made, firm and tactile. The only downside as a daily wear is that the aluminium insert will be liable to scratching, an issue that the Rolex GMT Master 2 doesn't have with its ceramic insert. Having worn this and a Black Bay 58 for almost 2 years, I can report to date I've had no issues with scratching, but it's always a possibility. The Black Bay GMT comes equipped with a domed sapphire crystal. It sits proud of the bezel by approximately 2mm and is 32mm in diameter. Like all Tudors and most Rolexes, there's no anti-reflective coating, but I've had no real issues with glare or reflections. The crystal is well executed, almost impossible to scratch, and being raised and domed does offer the bezel some knock protection from off-axis blows. As with the entire Black Bay range, we get a single screw-down crown at the 3 o'clock position. It's made from stainless steel, polished on its face, and features a raised Tudor rose logo. Personally, I love this rose design over the Tudor shield, mainly because most manufacturers don't get the thread positions right on the crowns, leaving logos off-center when fully screwed down. We don't get that issue with the symmetrical rose design. The crown's teeth are of the same coin-edge design as the bezel, just a bit more pronounced to make it easy to grip and operate. Once unscrewed, we have 3 positions of operation. In the first, we can simply hand wind the automatic movement if desired. In the second, we can adjust the hour hand when traveling. Note the watch does not stop when in this position, allowing us to change time zones. This is also how we would change the date should the watch run down. It's not a true quick set, but it's still fairly quick to adjust. In the final position, hacking is engaged, allowing us to set the minute, hour and GMT hands together. The screw-down crown also helps achieve an excellent 200 meters of water resistance, 100 more than the Rolex GMT Master 2. On the whole, the crown is well engineered, looks good and is easy to operate. In short, it does its job well. When it comes to the dial, we have the same Black Bay setup and it's obviously Rolex inspired. We have a matte black base with a slight grain texture. This looks especially good in harsh lighting conditions, adding some nice visual interest. Around the edge we have a silver half railway track for reading seconds and minutes. Next we have applied and polished stainless steel indices, an inverted triangle at 12, rectangles at 6 and 9, and circles every 5 minutes. All of the indices feature white coloured lume. I'm really happy that Tudor chose white instead of faux patina, as the white ties in well with the rest of the design elements. Next up we have printed text. Below 12 we have a Tudor shield, followed by Tudor and Geneve. Above 6 we have the words GMT, chronometer and officially certified. followed by Swiss made at the bottom of the dial. All text is printed in silver. Finally, at 3 o'clock we have the date aperture. This has been given a slight chamfered edge for detail and reveals a white date disc with black numerals. Overall, the dial is clean and legible, exactly what a tool watch should be. The GMT features a 4-hand setup: hours, minutes, seconds, and of course a GMT hand for reading the second time zone. All hands are made from stainless steel, are high polished and feature the same white lume as the indices. The main points of note are that the GMT hand has been painted red for legibility and features the same snowflake design as the hour and seconds hand. This might be contentious for some. Personally, I like the snowflake design, harking back to early Tudor watches. Like all Tudors and Rolex, the case back is pretty straightforward, verging on boring. We have a solid stainless steel affair that's screwed to the case, again aiding the water resistance. We have null teeth around the perimeter for unscrewing with the tool, followed by repeating engravings that read Tudor Geneve and Caliber Manufacture, split with Tudor Shield logos. The entire case back features a mix of satin and brushed finishing. The only other thing to note is the inclusion of an engraved serial number on the underside of the case itself. So this particular example of the GMT comes on the optional stainless steel bracelet. It's a traditional 3-link oyster design with an all brush finished and polished outer faces. The overall build quality is excellent. The strap starts at 22mm at the lugs and tapers down to 18 at the clasp. Removable links are fixed by screws. So that brings me on to the contentious faux rivets. Personally, they don't bother me at all. Being vintage designed, they should be there. Yes, I get it, they're totally skeuomorphic, not real. But who cares? I'm here for the look and they absolutely don't offend me. They in no way affect wearability, and once on the wrist, they're barely noticeable. Rivets were used back in the day as it was the best manufacturing process at the time. Today, things are done differently. Better. But this is a vintage designed watch, referencing those early models of the past. The faux rivets are a nod to that, and work well with the overall design. If nothing else, they add character. The Black Bay GMT comes with Tudor's standard older model clasp, so it doesn't have their T-fit adjustment system. That said, it isn't bad. It's a deployment style milled from stainless steel and features a mix of brushed and high polished finishing. The clasp is secured with a clamshell lock that features Tudor wording and forms the Tudor shield when closed. It also features ceramic ball bearings so the tolerances remain firm and crisp through years of wear. Adjustment is taken care of by a series of 3 drilled divots in the side of the clasp, allowing you to adjust the fit with a strap tool. Overall, the clasp is well made and does the job well. Fingers crossed Tudor update this watch with a T-fit clasp soon, as it's far superior. Powering the Black Bay GMT is the in-house Tudor MT5652 automatic movement, a development from the standard Black Bay caliber to include a date and GMT function. It features a 70-hour power reserve, a silicon hairspring to protect against magnetism, and has a beat rate of 28,800 vibrations per hour, or 4 Hz. The movement is a 5-position adjusted COSC certified chronometer, meaning it should run no worse than -4 to +6 seconds per 24 hours. In my experience, as with all Tudor in-house movements, they normally far exceed the COSC ratings, normally on average being about 2 seconds off per day. Obviously, Tudor won't want to outperform Rolex, but in reality there's very little difference when it comes to accuracy. This is something Tudor do incredibly well, and by that I mean value. This GMT comes in at £3,500, less than half of a Rolex GMT Master 2. But in no way is this only half as good. The gap is much closer than you might think. So how does the Black Bay GMT wear? Well, for me, with my 16.5-inch wrist, this is where it starts to fall down. I'm 100% on board with the look and vintage design. I really do love it, but I find myself constantly choosing to wear the Black Bay 58 instead. It's all down to its size, specifically its bulk, which is all down to its thickness and weight. The Black Bay GMT is available in 3 colour configurations, each with various strap options. This black dial variant, which starts at $3,500 on a black and red NATO strap, or for $3,780 on the steel bracelet. Next, and new for 2023, we have the white dial variant. Again, either NATO or bracelet strap options are available at the same price points. Finally, we have the steel and gold variants, sometimes nicknamed root beer. This version is available with 3 strap options, a leather or NATO for £4,000 or a steel and gold bracelet for $5,290. The technical specifications for all colour variants are the same. So on to 5 not so good things about the Tudor Black Bay GMT. Its size. Again, this is just personal opinion and based on my smaller wrist size, but the overall volume of the watch is too large. I mean, it's not unwearable, but as soon as you try on a Black Bay 58, it's hard to go back. If you have a wrist of over 7 inches, you may not feel the same. It's massive slab sides. I know this still relates to size, and I also know this point has been laboured to death online, but it is true. If Tudor can't reduce the overall thickness due to the movement, it would be nice if they got creative with the design. Maybe thin out the case sides but increase the bubble case back, a la Rolex Sea Dweller. a watch that's thicker but visually appears thinner than this GMT on wrist. The strap width. Again, the 22mm diameter has been born out of design, helping to even out the overall heft of the watch and increase stability on wrist, but it does make for a wide strap and reduces the choice of aftermarket options. Strap adjustment. Tudor has dug itself a hole by offering the excellent T-fit adjustment clasp on more and more of its modern watches. At the time of filming this though, they haven't rolled it down to the GMT line, including 2023's white dial variant. Once you've experienced T-fit or Rolex's Glide Lock, again it's hard to go back. The weight. This is no shrinking violet, it's a heavy watch and it shows on wrist. It's not a deal breaker, but you certainly know you're wearing it. So what about all that's good? Its design and vintage looks. Vintage isn't for everyone, but it certainly is for me. It's the Black Bay's trump card and the reason for its existence, offering cool vintage vibes with modern build quality and movement tech. Would I like a vintage Rolex 6542? Yeah, but a good example costs around 40k and it's about 50 years old. Even if A, I could afford one, and B, find one, I'd never wear it due to its value and more importantly, its incredibly fragile nature. The Black Bay GMT provides 98% of the looks, bulletproof engineering and top-notch accuracy. The Pepsi Pan Am colour scheme. Think GMT and this is the colour combination that most people will think of. It's simply iconic. The colour tones are spot on, not too vibrant, not too subtle. The bezel is perfectly executed. The accuracy. In the real world, for a mechanical watch, the in-house Tudor movements are simply insanely accurate, well surpassing the COSC standards. This GMT has kept time just as good as my Rolex Explorer 2, if not better. The price point. Don't get me wrong, £3,500 is still a large amount to spend on a watch, but in the world of luxury watches, it's not much past entry level. Yes, it's always going to be compared to the Rolex GMT Master 2, but that watch is more than twice the price. Is it a better watch? Of course it is. It's an icon of the watch world, but is it really worth twice the amount? To some, yes. To most, probably not. So what's the verdict on the Tudor Black Bay GMT? In short, it's a phenomenal watch that represents true value, especially if you're a fan of vintage designs from Tudor or Rolex. If you're not, there are other options available. The Longines Spirit Zulu time jumps immediately to mind. For me, with my affection for watches like the Rolex 6542, the Black Bay GMT made complete sense. I've loved my time with it. I'd still be happy with it now if I hadn't have tried on a Black Bay 58. For me, that watch is perfection when it comes to size and wearability. I know it lacks the functions of the GMT, but I reach for it time and time again, even when I travel. Like a lot of you, I'm probably asking for too much, but if Tudor could ever make this watch in the Black Bay 58 format, I'm in. Like totally 1000% in. If Tudor were to ever make that watch, it would become my go-to daily and travel companion. But don't let my small-wristed thoughts put you off. If you're considering this GMT in its current form, try one on. If you have larger wrists and don't mind the thickness, you might just find a vintage-style watch from the Rolex family that does it all. Epic watch. Guys, thank you so much for watching. What are your thoughts on the Black Bay GMT? Do you still love it? Would you change its thickness or design if you could? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this video, please be sure to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the next review. And we'll catch you in the next video.